This is the Open Podcast, where your host, Sander Mangel, and his guests share strategies and insights to help digital agencies thrive in a changing world. In this episode, Sander continues the conversation with Mateusz Oktaba, expert lead at Halion.
Welcome back to part 2 of building a D2C playbook with Mateusz Oktaba. If you haven't listened to part 1, stop here and do that first. Mateusz, last week we looked a bit at the D2C market, the opportunities for manufacturers. This week we'll look a bit more in the practical topics, starting with validating the concept. We're not a big multinational. We are a D2C brand, or we. Let's imagine we're a D2C brand.
Of course.
Finite budget. I also sadly do not have a massive following on Instagram. How do I still validate my thesis, my product, my brand before I go to market? Can you walk us through some maybe very practical, smaller budget options there?
Yeah, I mean, there is a number of things you can do at the end of the day because it all depends on what you want to know. Is it more about validating your concept? Is it more about understanding, is your product working? So the first most important thing is to really set an objective. What do I want to know? So imagine that you already have a product and you would like to understand if this is something that will people buy, they will like it. Maybe you can find a couple of local stores there where you can list it, where you can put it on the shelf and see if it's selling off. So there is a craft beer brand from Poland that I love a lot. And you know what they started with? They started with dropping boxes of their beer at pubs for free and saying if they will sell, we'll bring you more. So they will just drop off a box of 20 bottles, then they would also leave their contact detail, and then they would wait for that. So I know it's a bit expensive to leave 20 bottles of beer at the end of the day in a bar, but it really paid off because people started ordering because they tested the product. They felt, okay, this is something different. This is something new. This is something I can charge more because it's a craft beer versus what I have on tap. So that was a brilliant thing. So I think really finding even a spot. And I remember, so I was working with a colleague who started a startup. So he was doing this kind of meal boxes, as in you order a meal box where you have all the ingredients to cook like lunch for 3 days, basically. So you have 3 different recipes. You have all the ingredients. So as a first iteration, he started putting them together manually, literally 20 boxes a week, and putting them in a store that was next to his office. So he still had a corporate job. He put these boxes there. He asked them just for it to be sold at a low price, and he was just seeing that. And the only thing is that he was always leaving a card like, can you give me your feedback so I'll give you the next one for free. It was brilliant, actually. I really like this move as well, that the first one he sold to see actually, because people when they get stuff for free, they'll actually tell you they really like it, right? So you also want to avoid that. But then they already paid some money. Then they were able to get a new one if they leave the feedback. So they all have the feedback. He collected the feedback and he started iterating based on that. And I think that is the thing. So one thing is really you can expose people to the product. Second thing is you can always go and try set up kind of a fake door experiment and literally start with a landing page, put up the story about your product, invest a few €100 in Google Ads and just see what is clicking. The best way to do is really do some A/B testing and really see what is more sticking, what is generating more attention. And with this kind of A/B testing, you can keep on crafting what you have, getting the attention. But also there is a nice caveat to that because you're starting to build a community of people because you can just leave there a small box, like leave your email address if you're interested. So not sure if you know this brand Allbirds sneakers. So they started in US and I was a huge fan of the concept. So I wanted to order them to Europe. And of course, like all the extra charges were just way too much for pair of woolen sneakers. But they actually had a landing page with just a box. If you're interested, leave us your email address. And basically their strategy was once they get a critical volume of people asking for that, they will set up a EU site. They did set up an EU site. I started ordering them, actually. I still hated they sell less models than US because if in US, literally last year when I was there in their store, I was like, okay, this is not what they're yet selling in Europe. I understand it because they're still a small business. But at the end of the day, that was also a brilliant thing because they didn't even need to invest much because they were already building their marketing and presence. But they understood how many people they're interested. So this fake door experiment is the second way to do it. But the third one, and this is I think something where I also was humbled by my knowledge, is not that expensive to do consumer research. There's a lot of third-party companies. They can really do short online forums. So really, if you want to understand your concept in depth, really, if you want to drill down on specifics, understand what is sticky, maybe compare to concepts, maybe find the best way to name it, find a claim. Literally, you can start with a 500, 1,000 euro budget, set up a group of people and start talking to them. And literally that opens new doors for you because you can ask hundreds of people, get some opinion, get even some better understanding of their features like demography behaviors and build on that. So there is a few ways to do it cost effectively, but the most important thing is to really start with what you want to know, like really establish a target. Because what I see a lot also, and I saw it even from some D2C brands, that they try to do some consumer research because they hear it's fancy, it's good to have it, but then you read through a report which is very blunt, which is a collection of questions that don't make too much sense altogether. They are very right questions. Like, for example, there are how do you use a category. So there is one brand I remember. I found someone online their research, and I was like, okay, it makes sense to ask these questions, but there is a number of sources where you can find this information. I'd rather ask about it, like, what do you need in the product? What is your current need state? Like, what do you struggle with? Why your new toothbrush is not serving its purpose? What is the reason? And just try to build on that. So really, if you set the right questions, you will get the right answers. I had this boss, and I remember her always saying, basically, that was the best saying ever. She was always saying, like, garbage in, garbage out, right? So if you start with a garbage questions, you'll have a garbage knowledge. But if you know what you want to know, you can do it. But last not the least, I really feel that LLMs are also a great thing to do a bit of digging, to do a bit of competitive, like whatever I'm working on, I'm trying to put it in the LLM. Just to collect some feedback, just to see, what is already there online. There is a massive amount of knowledge, so they can help you understand a bit, reframe it. So I think it's literally a great start.
Yeah, especially the deep research, right, on a Gemini or even
brilliant.
Claude. What it digs up is absolutely amazing.
And I think the beauty about it is also, at the end of the day, it's really approachable. You can do it literally sitting in the toilet with your phone in the hand. You can do a quick first check. And literally last time, so I was actually researching a concept that I wanted to write. And basically, I think I was using at that time GPT, right? So I asked, like, can you bring me some verbatims from consumer reviews for a specific category of products? Can you actually share with me how people talk about the product? And of course, it came up with really brilliant material that I could actually build a bit on, right? And understand it and do more of a semantics analysis. And also any kind of, by the way, one more thing, which is less popular now but still important, is any kind of social listening tools for brands, because they also give you, by the way, another way to learn about people. Go online and start reviewing reviews. Find a closest product to yours and start reading reviews about them. You'll hear what is interesting, what is not interesting, and you can learn from that. So I remember I was working with a cosmetics brand, and so they were really in this K-beauty space, but they were produced in Europe. And I remember one of the issues, so literally one of the things that people appreciate about K-beauty a lot is that these products are kind of, when you use them, you really feel that they are working because they are foaming highly. There is a lot of features showing the product has a thick kind of consistency and so on and so on. That shows you that kind of it's working, because if the product is runny, it's a bit like water, you have less confidence that it's a great product. But the thing is that it's foamy because it has SLS, so it has the sodium lauryl sulfate, which in Europe is not that popular. In Europe, we use other more gentle substances, but they're not foaming as much. So the problem they had was, at the end of the day, that there were people expecting their products, because they're in the K-beauty space, to be also as foamy as they are, because in Asia, consumers look at it differently, but they wanted to have a clean label. And because of this feedback, they actually decided, okay, we'll have a less clean label. And it's a conscious choice because we want to follow the K-beauty routine and we want to do it this way. So they discovered it just by reading the reviews of the competitor products. When people were saying, it foams brilliantly, it foams much better than my current product. And they felt like, okay, this is what we're missing in our ingredient list. So really, going online, reading the comments opens your mind. And I think that, to be very honest, I don't think too many people, even at big multinationals, like the companies I used to work for, do that. They are a bit detached. They really wait for the consumer research. They wait for a bigger thing. But it's so easy to keep up with your consumers every day, understand that. And I can tell you from my position, so I work in a multinational, right? We sell at a lot of stores. I'll always make an effort to go to the store, see what is there, what people are buying, literally go at different hours, see what is going on, because that helps you. And translating into D2C, it's so much better, because at the end of the day, you have so much data on how people are shopping. So you can see when they abandon the cart. You can see what is triggering their interest. You can see when any kind of cross promotion makes sense, and design so many ways. And I think this is also the brilliant part, is that the learning doesn't stop at the beginning. The more you build your business, the more data you generate, the more you can learn. And I think this is the brilliance. So for me, D2C is a business for people who want to listen to their consumers and want to stay close to that. And by the way, and I shouldn't say that considering that I work in a multinational environment of the huge companies, but I would say that this is exactly the winning formula for D2Cs to win against big multinational corporations these days, is to really stay close to the consumer, cater the need, and because of the D2C, have a different model that enables the margin. And that's the thing where it gets really competitive. And I can tell you the really small brands that have a great D2C model, they are very dangerous in this market because they steal away the attention from big established brands. So there is something to it.
Yeah. And maybe coming quickly back to the fact that manufacturers are in such a brilliant position, right? Nothing is stopping them from making some variations of their product, right? And putting them on the shelf, seeing how people react to the different, to your K-beauty example, right? Do they like it extra foamy or not? Something more soft for the skin, right? It positions manufacturers with that research muscle, with that production muscle, much better than any other startup.
True, but on the other hand, they're still missing a bit the flexibility and agility that a startup has. I'm not kidding you. Like if you are ordering a bunch of products, it's really hard to change your order once it's in. So you really have to sell what you planned for a few months ago. And this is the thing, like, because at the end of the day, what the build multinationals have is actually the benefit of a scale. But to have a scale, that means you need to have it simplified. Yet, if you're a D2C, you can be more nimble. You can have a bit of a wider portfolio. You can allow yourself to experiment with that. Because worst case scenario, you're not left with a stock of 20 million SKUs, but rather you're left with a stock of 2,000 SKUs that you can sell off, which is a bit of a different story. So it gives you a bit more space to experiment. And the other thing is your decision making is much shorter. Your team is much smaller. It usually sits in one room or can get on a call in half an hour and make a decision which is crucial for the business. So I think that this agility is also super important. And I think this, because when you think about it, one of the things we're celebrating in marketing a few years ago was real-time marketing, like how quick we were to react to any kind of world events. But now I think it's more of a real-time reaction to the new trends that are coming. And for D2C brands, it's so much easier to react to that. It's so much easier to adapt. Like one of the things I loved so much was after the COVID, there was so many ranges of very fancy hand sanitizers. So I could see that there were some D2C brands that really went into the space of having a fancy hand sanitizer. You would never think that this product can be an accessory, but since it got so popular, there are so many brands that would look like something you can attach to your handbag and just carry around, that I must say, exactly those D2C, like no multinational will be able to do it so fast, because this is not what these companies are built to do. So that proves, that this agility is a great power, but it's a trap as well, because it's quite easy to fall into a trend, and this is important as well. So it's easy to fall into trends that are very seasonal, they are very short. So some of the trends, I think the important part in understanding the consumers is to really pick these trends that will stay for longer, the trends that actually will be more transformative for the market. So I think this is the great difference. So not to follow just a fad, just a fashion that came in and it will disappear in the next 3 months.
Yeah,
like the Dubai chocolate.
Right, exactly. So when you validate that concept, think about how durable it is, what the external factors are, and of course, once you're established, it's fine, right? To follow the trends. If you're already doing toothpaste, why not the Dubai chocolate toothpaste? But don't make it your core hero product that has to build up your runway. That's a good point. Well, maybe that's a good segue into another very practical topic, right? Developing that first product, that is just the start. I think what I often see is that the actual go-to-market and staying afloat for the first year, building up that operational muscle, is much more challenging, right? Cost is often underestimated. Can you talk a little bit through that, especially, for example, what does it cost to get put on the shelves of a Rossmann, Ethos, what have you?
Yeah, I think, first of all, like if you think about entering a market, right? So first of all, you need to have a stock of products. So basically, you need to pay for their production. They need to be available. This is a front investment that, especially if you want to sell in retail, it will pay off only in about 3-4 months from now. So that means that you are fronting quite a lot of cash in working capital.
Because this is important, right? The Rossmann might not even pay me up front for the stock
Exactly.
that they're buying.
They will probably pay actually after. I think in a lot of cases they'll actually negotiate with you as well. That's the fun part. But the other thing is they also take quite a lot of margin from you, right? And they will also ask you to participate in their services. So it's not like you put the product on the shelf, it will sell off. Now probably it needs more visibility. So there is a few proposal. There is a nice screen at the entrance to the store where you can actually have the key visual of your product showing up, so people are more prone to buy it. So there is quite a big front investment already, especially if you enter the retail. D2C is a bit different because if you have already the community, if you enter into that, it's kind of an entering into ecosystem that you built already for yourself. So even the cost of building it means that it's staying with you. Let me make a parallel here actually. So I work a lot with communication for healthcare professionals. And one of the big things that we're going after now is actually not using the available tools and communities, but rather building our own tools as manufacturers around it. So our key currency now is the first party data. Why? Because we recognize that by owning it, we can then invest in that. So instead of paying upfront so much, it really makes sense to invest in your own business, to really build your consumer base, to really invest in the user acquisition in the right platform, because then you can pivot from that. You can sell more products, you can go with the ranges. So that's the importance of that. And if you have this one product, of course, you can go to retail, you can be super successful with that. But I would say why not put it off? If you have a great product, wait a bit. There is a brand that I really, really like. So it's a face care brand. And they were at some point very, very popular in Poland. They are called Recibo. Recibo was a brand that really got a huge user following. They were only available online. They had great products. They had really premium products. And all the retailers were really inquiring them, do you want to launch with us? And they're really postponing it until it was so attractive that they could get a bit better conditions of the collaboration, that they could actually get a better margin out of that. And I think that was a very smart thing to do, because in the long run, they entered with the established product to the retail, built a bigger consumer base, because basically entering a retail means that you have access to more consumers. You have access to less savvy consumers. You have access to people who are not going online. So this is a good step for a brand that has already established community, and now you can pivot into that. You can still keep more exclusive assortment for your core users that you sell online, but you can go to the retail, take 4 of your top sellers, put it on the shelf, and actually get this additional revenue stream. So this is a smart thing to do. But going to the retail first, it's costly, and I think this is why D2C is so alluring, because with this investment, you build your own community, your own following. And like with emergence of things like, so apparently TikTok is now putting up the shopping functionalities quite widely in Europe. So this will enable a lot of people to do e-commerce in such a different way as well. So you don't need a full platform now. You have marketplaces where you can put your products. There's so many ways to do it. So it's so much easier for people to start selling. But I think the best investment is still to build your own community around it, to really get the users in and work with them and build something. And I think this is the long-term investment. So if you're really into building a product that lasts, I think that's quite a future. And with the cost of delivery getting lower, like with the cost of logistics, fulfillment is getting so much cheaper versus a few years ago even, right? So it's so much more accessible. You have this parcel lockers everywhere now, popping up in every city in Europe, basically. And so you don't even need to wait for the courier. There's so many ways to get to the consumer. This is the right time to go there because the entry point is lower and it's more accessible and it's an investment. So from this point, yes, but also you mentioned something important for me, which is the hero product. And I think this is also great. Like I think that every brand has kind of a hero product. They have this kind of a hero SKU that started it all, that really took it off. So I was mentioning Glove, which is one of my favorites when it comes to how they pivoted into such a huge business. I mentioned this High Bestie menstrual disc that they are selling. So there is always this one hero product that starts with all that. It starts something like that. And a lot of people think that you'll come up with a first product, it will be your hero product and you'll start selling that. And this is not true at all. Probably you need a few iterations to really find it. It might be your 3 or 4 first products. They will get some sales, but they will be not as attractive as something that you get later. You learn from it. It's an iterative process, and I think this is also important. Like you need to build your hero product. Current Coke as a hero, like the can of Coke, is something as a result of years of development. Come on, it took them years to get it there, and only then they actually discovered it. And the other thing is that it may fade away. There might be a new hero product in a few years. So the important part is to really understand which thing is really attracting people pouring that. So when you think about multinationals, there is a term which is called the traffic driver. So if you are a brand manager, you know which is your top seller product that is a traffic driver. And when you go to a Rossmann or another retailer and you say, this is the traffic driver, this is the product that will bring people to your store if you put a promotion on this product. So you should have people coming and buying other things. So think about it this way, how you build this kind of traffic bringers, how you actually anchor it with people, because these will actually help you get more sales. So look at it from this perspective. A lot of brands, they also get into this space that they use some products to actually pivot other sales to get the cross-purchase, cross-promo based on this, because you're already coming for something which is the key variant. So establishing this competency is also super important, but I don't think it's the first product. I don't think ever it's the first product that you do. I think it's always the product that you may be surprised about that actually gets the traction. And this really is humbling moment as well, because it might not be your favorite as an owner of the brand. It might not be the thing that you cherish the most, but apparently this is the one that people chose. And this is the humbling moment as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's also important in owning your channels, right? Because yes, if I sell B2B, it's maybe interesting to look at a retailer because I have an easy market to reach. But at the same time, if I own that service, right? If I own that shop that I'm selling through, I get much more direct feedback. I see the return reasons. I see the many questions that I'll get from the consumer, and that drives that innovation engine that you ultimately do need to develop as a manufacturer.
Yeah. At the end of the day, so one brand I really like, so I'm referring a lot to Polish brands. So for the people who are not Polish, it might be a little bit tricky, but there is a brand which I love a lot. They're called Mother of God. I told you once about it. So Mother of God, they're selling basically a bone broth. So there is a beef bone broth and so on and so on. It's quite premium. They actually build a story around it that drinking a bone broth in the morning is actually quite a healthy routine for your gut. So Mother of God, right? And the brilliant thing is that they started asking people actually what new variants they want to see, how they wanted to use the product. And their thinking from the beginning was like, you'll heat it up, pour yourself a glass in the morning, drink it, and this will be a great ritual for your gut. Thing is that right now what I see is they started developing a lot of recipes around it, because a lot of people, they saw their broth as a chassis for their creative cooking, because cooking a broth at home actually takes time and to have a quality broth, and it's a high quality broth. So they pivoted a little more into different recipes. So now they have a base which is more ramen based. They have a pho base. So they're really getting inspired by different cuisines, and they're really getting into this space of rather indulgence and having a great recipe and being healthy at the same time instead of being healthy. So I think for them, that was a moment to pivot their thinking into that, but at the end of it, it pays off. But their starting concept is still valid, but it's reiterated in something new.
I mean, when you told me about the broth, my mind went to ramen. I'll stick to coffee in the morning if you don't mind.
But see, a lot of people are this way. But but this is important as well. Like, it's hard to change the habit of people.
Yeah.
So if you say something which is not, it's out of the habit for them, it's really hard to digest. So you will find a group of people. It's just because I have this one saying, that in business, it's not we don't do things right away. The only thing we do is either increasing probability of something or decreasing the risk of something. That's about it, right? So, and increasing probability for your success means that you need to listen a bit and see that. And if you want to really do something to increase the probabilities, rather to tap into existing habit, then design. And so a great example, I heard that. They were kind of a big clunky device that you would need to hold with both hands, heavy, liquid, whatever. And then this one looked like a lighter. So there was a box like a lighter. There was a thin thing like a cigarette. You take out the thing and then it burns. It heats. It doesn't burn. So that's another benefit. But then you would use it. And I think they cracked it because they really tapped into kind of the regime, how you use it. So really, again, understanding your consumers' lives and tapping into that understanding, this helps you pivot into something that will be relevant for them. Because every now and then there is an innovation that will change how we consume things like iPhone, right? But it's not regular. Not every brand can do it, and that's okay.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think that kind of a change needs a lot of budget, right? That is not something that you as a startup will do. Maybe to wrap up, let's summarize a bit. What are the strengths that a manufacturer has that they should be leaning into, right? So, as a manufacturer listening to this, what should I be focusing on in my company that makes it worthwhile exploring the D2C channel?
I think the number one thing is, you need to own the product fully, as in really need to take all the advantage of the fact that you are the one doing the product. So it's not only about the quality of it, it's not only about really adjusting it to fit all the needs, but it's also about owning the story, where it comes from, why do we do it this way, why do we have this technology, because it's a huge potential for storytelling. So I think that really one of the advantage for a manufacturer is that they own actually the R&D, the production, the design behind the product, and then they can explain it. Because if you are doing a drop shipping of stuff that you bought off Temu, you are not able to explain the engineering behind it. You are not able to explain the story behind it, right? So it gives you a competitive edge. And we like a story. As consumers, especially if you have a higher income and you want something nicer for yourself, you like the story. This is something that will definitely help you make a better decision. So really owning the product is number one thing. Number two thing is really owning your audience and really understanding, okay, like really listening to that. Because at the end of the day, it might be that you will receive some harsh feedback at some point. It might be that your new product won't be such a success that you want it to be. But you can always turn it around, take this feedback and reiterate. And this makes me come to the third part, is about the mindset. Multinational corporations, big brands, they don't have this entrepreneurial mindset. They don't have this entrepreneurial business model. They have to rely on the scale benefits. And this is also a big advantage. If it is entrepreneurial mindset, if you're willing to really pivot from somewhere you were into something new, that really opens it up. So I think these are the three competencies of a manufacturer that wants to enter the D2C. Really owning the product, owning the audience, and this entrepreneurial, fast forward-looking mindset. And if you have that, I think that this is worth playing into. And this really gives you an advantage in a market which is full of products that are great. I'm not in this space that I would say that if something is from a big company, it has to be a bad product. It's not about that. There are great products, but they are still mass products. But there is a big audience of people, they want something different for themselves. And this customization, this kind of sense of getting something more artisan, getting something more interesting is really resonating. And at the end of the day, this is the wave that I think will be there regardless of any economic turmoil, anything happening. People want to uptrade, especially in the categories that are bringing them pleasure, especially in the categories that they are using every day, because the really user experience is something important. And we do that, so we don't have to rely on it. You know how it is. If you fulfill on your needs on one level, you want to step up. You want to do something different. And I think exactly D2C manufacturer-driven businesses can deliver this feeling and can give you also something very unique, which is being part of the story. And as much I can tell you a part of it. So I'm a huge fan of Magnum. Like Magnum ice cream is one of my favorites. So if I buy ice cream in retail, it's always Magnum. But I still prefer the local ice cream shop that I have in my neighborhood, because I know these guys, and basically they only have a handwritten piece of paper with the list of the flavors they have today, because the flavors change every day. So they don't want even to have a board to change the letters on, because they just write it on a piece of paper and put it on the door, because they change it every day, because they get inspired by something. Or so they bought fresh pistachios and they want to do some more pistachio ice cream today, and they just do it because they feel like it, or they do it because their consumers ask about something. So this is the feeling I have that is super special, that I'll go there and I'll never know what is the flavor. And these are the two distinctive feelings, and definitely they're for the two different occasions. And I think that's the beauty of it. And the funny thing is, if you think about exactly any kind of food, let's say any kind of restaurant businesses, that's exactly very direct to consumer. The best restaurants are all about understanding who is coming there and what you're selling to them, and really catering to that. And I'm a huge fan of that. That really, it helps you deliver a great experience if you understand who is coming for what, if you understand their needs, their stories, and build on it. And that's, I think, something we can close with as well. That we have a lot of examples of brands that when they understand the consumer, because I do believe that technology you can copy in the long run.
Yes.
You can copy a lot of solutions, but the philosophy behind the brand, the community, this is something not easy to copy. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, these are. So again, my favorite thing is like Byron Sharp, generally with the whole concept of how brands grow. He and his team also defined a concept of distinctive brand assets. So they are just some things that belong to a brand and make it distinctive. So like by doing these things, you build distinctive brand assets. You build something for your own, and even if some of the parts of your marketing mix will get copied, copied, the essence stay there. And we like to follow the essence. We like to be sophisticated buyers. And I think this really creates a great environment. So as I said in the beginning, it's the best times and the worst times because the consumers, they are there. They are super open. It's hard for manufacturers because of the competition, but I think it's still worth it. And it's still worth it because I do see an end to kind of a global multinational same brands. I do see that the customization, I do see that the kind of being distinctive is something that we all strive for and we want it as consumers. And there are new markets opening as well. There are more and more markets actually where people are getting disposable income that is enough for them to uptrade, to do something different. So it's not only that you have to serve Europe or the US or any other more developed countries. There is so many, let's say, developing countries that are actually opening up for much higher, more premium propositions. And literally, this is another untapped opportunity. So this is just starting. I think I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm a huge buyer of new things. So definitely, I will always support any great ideas.
We'll make sure that everyone starts to send their newsletter to you.
Exactly.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I'm open.
Mateusz, thank you so much. Thank you so much
Sander.
for this deep dive into D2C for manufacturers. A lot of gold nuggets in there. We went from more philosophical, this is the market, to very practical, a true deep dive. If people want to know more about you, LinkedIn, I think, is the best.
Of course,
best place.
Yes. Please do. I think I'm the only one with the same name on LinkedIn, so it's quite easy to find. So yeah, definitely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Then, yeah. Bye bye.